What's up, y'all? What's up, y'all? It's that time. It's that time.
Get this money. Got love, we gon' count them back.
God bless everyone. God bless everyone. Yeah. What's good, brother? I can't hear you, though. You might have to come back on. Hey, baby. Oh, my baby. Oh, that's what's up. She checking me out. Straight hustling. Okay, let's get an audience, people. Welcome to the Blaze live show. Live, 8 o'clock. I know Anton just tried to call me. I don't know what's going on. But you know, God is good. And you know, I'm back, baby, with another one. I invited my people. Talk to me nice. Yeah, that's my guy right there. Mussolini, baby, move. Love you, bro. I'm going to send an invite to you now, Johnny. We got Johnny Shoes in here tonight, baby. Tune in, man. Tune in, baby. Hold up.
What up?
What up?
What up? You got me?
What up? What up?
Yo, what's going on? Hey, how you doing?
It's 8 o'clock.
8 o'clock. Where's Anton?
You know what? I'm good. How are you?
Good.
How are you doing, brother?
Bonnie,
I'm
introduce
good.
me. Who is this handsome young man?
This is JohnnyFamousfootwear. He's going to be on the show tonight.
Oh, yes. Yes.
We got
Thank you.
him here early.
Thank you.
Got him here early.
Yes, sir.
So we can talk about my shoes.
Do you make women's shoes too?
You know what? We are going to start to do women's shoes. You know what? About before the pandemic, we were dealing with a designer that specialized in women's shoes from Italy. And with the pandemic, we had to slow down on that because we didn't know where the future, where we were headed, because it was scary at some point. But we're going to resume after being that it's 2023. We're going to resume. We're going to get our women's line out. You don't know how many requests I receive from women talking about, hey, I need some women's
because we are the shoppers. We are the shoppers. I mean, men got one style shoe and that's it. So I don't blame you for not getting into women's shoes because we have so many to choose from. It's like, which shoe do you choose first? Which is going to be your best seller? But with a man's shoe, it's a loafer and you tie up and you're done.
Yep. Well, that's where the money is, to tell you the truth. Women's shoes, that's where the money is. You know, women are the real buyers. But with me, I started out with my niche. Where can I get my foot in this market? You know, and I'll tell you more about that, how I got there.
I know. Let's save some. Right.
Yeah.
But I'm a shopper. shopper, so that I just had to get that out right now. Where's shoes?
No, absolutely. Absolutely.
I don't know if I had to choose between a bag or shoes. I think it may be always shoes.
Really?
Yeah.
That's hard for a woman. That choice. That's hard. I think A is coming in right now.
Yeah.
What we do.
Yes.
Yo, what we do. Let's get this right. Let's get this right now.
We got 4 people on at the same time.
Yeah.
Yes. Same damn time.
Yeah.
Listen, check this out. Look at my ambiance.
Oh, nice.
My ambiance.
Oh, shit.
Huh?
Yeah, I need to be in studio with you,
from Set It Off Studios. You know, today's show is definitely sponsored by Residue Fashion Designs. I got to tap some people in right now that I know you need to get on. So give me 2 quick minutes. Bobby, you can go into your thing. Johnny, welcome. Looking forward to our interview.
Yeah, absolutely.
How you doing? Give me 2 minutes. You guys can go just tap some people in and develop an audience because we've got a big audience already. We're tapping in already, so I can make it a little bit.
Hey. In the background. Y'all said that in the background?
Yeah, I'm having some, yeah.
Yeah, I'm hearing some backlash.
Right. I'm
Somebody
quiet.
got feedback.
Somebody got feedback?
Yeah.
Hey,
Yo,
Tony.
hey, you sound a lot better. You sound.
Oh, yeah, it sounds better. Y'all can hear me, though, right?
Yes. Yeah,
Yeah, I
that
can
sounds
hear
much
you
better.
now.
Speaking of shoes, for those of us today, it's people who wear the wrong shoes with their outfit.
Yeah, that's always been a
Every
problem.
time I get upset when I see people with the wrong shoes with the wrong outfit. I just
That's
get
been a
mad like,
problem.
I'm gonna run up on you like, oh man, you know you ain't supposed to be wearing those with those, man. Come on, you don't just put anything with anything.
Yeah, but
Man.
hey, if you don't know, you don't know. Some people simply just don't know. You know what? I see fashion as a gift. Not everyone got that gift to have a fashion sense. You understand?
That's true.
They'll just follow a trend on what's popping right now, like skinny jeans. Skinny jeans ain't made for everyone. So I would never put myself in that because some fashions, the trends are made for certain people. You got to stick with what you love and what you know. I just see it as fashion as expressing yourself. So I really, as I got deeper and deeper into this business, I tried not to judge because I would go to these trade shows and I would see people from all over the world with some of the wildest shit you can imagine on.
Fashion, right?
But you know what I did? I learned to appreciate it because that person is expressing themselves.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? How they feeling. So I was like, okay, I see what you know. I respected it on a fashion sense because everyone is different. And that's the good thing about the world and fashion itself. You know?
That's a fact. That's a fact. I learned to
That's
respect
facts.
my father wearing skinny jeans with Timberlands. I was like, Dad, your pops, what you doing with skinny jeans with Timberlands on, man? I'm trying to respect it, like my man Johnny said. Respect those things. But Dad, the things is too tight. You got on blood pressure pants with some Timbs, brother. It's just, I just be like, you know, you know where we from. You know where we from. Don't do that.
Absolutely.
You don't just do that. But I respect it. And this new, he's trying to be in with the new generation. You know what I mean? He's 50 years old with some skinny jeans on and some Timberlands. Like, I don't know what to tell you, Pop.
So, A, what's up? What you got for me, A?
Well, what we're going to do right now, we're going to let Belinda go into her segment. All right, Bobby finishes. We're going to let Belinda go into her segment with this interview. And to me, you can pop this up. All right?
Hey,
I think that's the microphone doing that.
pull your microphone closer to you, Anton, because you're going in and out.
Is that better?
Like your mic. Yeah, it's
Is
better.
that better?
Yeah, that's better.
Okay, so we're gonna
Yeah,
Belinda can go into her segment, and me and you, Johnny, will go into ours.
So listen, if you gotta go to the bathroom right now, you can go ahead because I'm gonna do my entertainment news segment. So if you want to join in, fine. But after, I'm gonna hurry up and get through it because I want to hear about these women's shoes you about to do. You know?
Yeah.
All right, everybody. It's time for the entertainment news segment with me, Belinda Trotter James, your media queen for the hip hop culture that brought you Word Up, Rap Masters, Right On, and Too Hype. Now, I'm carrying on the legacy with today's Ebony Woman, Modelocity Online Magazine, and Blow Woofer Magazine. So here we go. You know, we haven't been talking about Kanye West a lot. Did you hear he got married? I watch all the television shows, the entertainment shows. I don't see them talking about Kanye getting married, but he's married. Did you hear that?
Yeah, I heard
He
it.
got
I seen
married.
it on the post.
Yes, he was out with his new wife, and he introduced his wife to his oldest daughter. Now, I hope that this calms him down so he doesn't bother Kim anymore. But one of my male friends said that he will bother Kim again once Kim starts dating again. Now, is that true, guys? When you see your ex with somebody now, you want to come and bother her? Really?
I never go backwards.
I'm different.
I always go forward. I never go backwards. So
I'm not like that. I let her live her life. Let her live her life.
Let her live her life. So
Forward.
I think King Kanye is gonna come out of his cave as soon as we hear that Kim Kardashian has a new date or a new boo or whatever.
Well, I hope it's me. I hope I'm the new boo that she finds.
So Chuck D has a documentary that's coming out and it's perfect for the 50th anniversary of hip hop. It's called Fight the Power: How Hip Hop Saved the World. Changed the world. Excuse me. How hip hop changed the world. So that's coming out on PBS by the end of the week. So if you get a chance to see that, definitely. It's a 4-part series, so you'll get to see the whole era of how hip hop started. So congratulations to you, Chuck D.
That's super dope, and we're gonna come back and revisit that little piece right there. I got something to add to that.
Okay, cool. Michael Strahan got his star on the Hollywood Walk of Fame, so congratulations to Michael Strahan for getting your star. Nice.
Good evening, Mr. Green.
Mr. Green is here. Hello, Mr. Green. That's one of my favorites. Favorite people that come on. Hi, Mr. Green. You're just in time for me to finish up my entertainment news segment. So Beyonce was in Dubai and she was paid at least $21 to $24 million to do a concert. And her daughter, Blue Ivy, also made her appearance. You know, I can't wait to see what Blue Ivy does with her life when she gets older. You know, when I come back in my next life, I want to be Beyonce's daughter. But wait a minute. Maybe Beyonce in her next life won't be Beyonce. So I gotta say, I hope I'm a daughter of a millionaire. I don't know. But congratulations to Beyonce. She looked beautiful. She did an excellent job. So Travis Scott and Kylie Jenner finally showed us their new baby boy. And the name is Air.
A-I-R.
A-I-I-R-E. Air.
Okay.
It's so nice everybody's coming up with these creative names. I just love it.
Air, come here for a second, cuz.
Now
remember Joseph Sakara, who played Tommy on Power, and T.I., Tip Harris, they're both in the movie together called Fear. And it's about this group of people that are in this hotel and whatever fear they have, it manifests itself. So it's a horror movie, so it should be really good. The one thing I gotta say about Tommy or Joseph, they gotta do something about his wardrobe. His hair is the same hair in no matter what movie he plays in. Power, he got the same buzz cut. In this movie, he got the same cut. I mean, they put glasses on him, but we still know that's Tommy. Change his hair. Do something. Love you, Tommy. So, Flo Rida, I think we said a little bit about this last week, but Flo Rida is paid in full. Flo Rida does not have to go and buy a lottery ticket. He got $82.6 million because he did some kind of marketing for this company, and the company said they didn't make that much money, and he found out they did. And see, this is why it's important to have a team of people in your corner, your lawyers, your accountants, and they're watching all your investments that you do. You read your contracts, and when you don't do that, see, they think we don't read, see? But when you read, you get paid. So here we go.
On that project, $2 million, and it wind up with $82 million. Wow.
Yes.
$82 million. Shout out to Flo Rida. Shout out to Flo Rida.
Yeah, and remember Usain Bolt, the fastest man on earth? He did the same thing. He invested $12.8 million in a company, and now that company only has $12,000 left. What happened?
Wow.
What happened? So $12 million he invested. The company has $12,000 in their bank account. So they had a party. So we're going to see. But this is why it's important to stay on top of your stuff. If you can't stay on top of it, at least you're the umbrella and all your people are underneath it. And every month you should be having some kind of meeting on what's going on with your investments or your contracts or whatever. Yeah, every week? Okay.
Every week we having a meeting.
Every week. You see, that's what Oprah did. Oprah don't sign checks, but she looks over everything. Not that she does sign her checks, but she looks over everything. So you ain't gonna find that kind of story with Oprah.
No.
So to find out about these juicy stories and so much more, head on over to MediaQueenPublishing.com. And now I can't wait to get to our guest. We was trying to get him on last week and couldn't. So Antar, it's on you.
Hey, thank you everybody for tuning in. Right now, what I'm looking at is potentially one of the largest audiences that we had. This show is brought to you from the good old people at Residue Designer Clothes. You Residue? This gentleman, I have seen this gentleman over the years change many times, go in many directions. He's not only a business partner of mine, but he's also a very good friend. And when we get on the phone, we can talk hours. We kind of came up the same kind of way. We went to the same school district, and we wind up being around the same people. You know, so we keep coming back to us. Yeah, there's feedback.
I know there's a lot of feedback.
But I don't know if it's the weather. A lot of people say there's feedback, and I don't know where it's coming from. You know, but
yeah, I don't hear it. I don't hear the feedback.
You know, ladies and gentlemen, everybody here, and reach of this live Instagram, Mr. Johnny Smith, CEO of Johnny Famous Shoes. Welcome, my brother.
Yeah, thank you, A. Thank you, A. Hey, we've been planning this for a minute, me and you, way before COVID.
Yeah.
We were planning to do this, and it was one thing or another that got in the way. But today's the day.
Today's the day.
Tonight's the
night. This is the way it's supposed to happen.
So,
yo,
let's start off here. I know the whole story, Johnny. But for the people that listen, you know, the 100 or something people that this live right now, they don't know. They're locked in from all over the country, all over the world.
Right.
So let's start from where did you originate from?
Nah, I grew up.
And how did your family get to New York?
Right. Right.
I know.
I grew up over there in the north side of Wyandanch in Wheatley Heights. And I've been there since, like, my family moved there since, like, the early 70s.
Wow.
So we've been over there in Wheatley Heights, Wyandanch since then. I had a lot of cousins and uncles that even went to Wyandanch High School back in the late 60s. But I started over there on the north side of Wheatley Heights. So you got to understand, from the late 70s to like 1987, the north side of Wyandanch is all I knew. And I went to school at Half Hour Hills School District because I lived over the cutoff line between Wyandanch School District and Half Hour Hills. So you got to understand, back then there was only a handful of black kids that went to Half Hour Hills because that school district was mostly Jewish people. Italians,
Yeah, right.
they were wealthy. I couldn't understand that divide line. A mile up the street, you have some very wealthy people, and then a mile down the road in Wyandanch, I seen suffering. I couldn't understand that shit as a kid. I didn't understand it at all. So a lot of those kids, those Jewish kids who I grew up with in the 70s, going to school with, they were my friends. I played soccer with them, and one of my best friends was a Jewish kid, and with that relationship right there was important because I understood two different type of cultures. See, Wyandanch is totally different. By far, that was like one of the roughest towns in Suffolk County, especially when Straight Path was open all night, when you had Reds, Larry's, in the 80s, the crack epidemic, Church Chicken, that shit was the dead arm district. You know how many knockouts and infamous fights and shit I done seen out there? But then half of the day I went to school up here in Dix Hills with the so-called proper wealthy. So I had the best of both worlds, and it influenced me in fashion. And I'm going to tell you why. Because in the late 70s and early 80s, these kids, Jewish kids, was wearing Eli, the real Fila, by Bijan Borg, the Italian brand. They was wearing polo back then. And a lot of people in the urban communities, they didn't know what polo was. I remember getting teased back then coming in the hood with a polo horse on because all they knew was Latigra and Lee's and shit like that back in the early 80s.
I learned about Gucci and Donatella Versace, the real Versace, at Half Hour Hills.
Because that's what these kids wore to school. So I knew what nice shit was.
Yep.
You see what I'm saying? I knew the difference between real nice shit and not taking away anything from the era of hip hop when we wore the Latigra, the Lee's, the Adidas with the fat laces. That shit was so important because what happened was some of my friends, a lot of Jewish kids, they started dressing that way in like 85, 84. They was wearing that shit to school, and so I seen the shift where the urban culture was really taking it. I remember in 1984, I was in a chorus class. Everyone takes that class because it's an easy grade. But I remember my chorus teacher, I went to West Howell Junior High School in Dix Hills, and I asked her if I can implicate a rap song into my chorus song. And I remember her telling me that this music is a fad, it will never last. It's not music. I remember her telling me that about hip hop. That shit kind of hurt my feelings because it was like a hit on our culture.
Right.
Yeah.
I wish I could see her now.
Yes.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? I wish I could see her now, like you say, now what? Even though she might be an old ass lady, but they just slept on the culture. They slept on
a lot of people felt that way about hip hop, the hip hop culture. They thought it was just a fad and it didn't last.
Oh yeah.
Look at it now; it's a multi-billion-dollar industry. So,
Johnny,
let's change gears a little bit. Let's talk about your sports career. You know, you are decent. I'm going to say you go with you're pretty decent soccer player. that was around a lot of folks.
Yeah.
You were a pretty decent basketball player. Talk to us about that.
You know what? I played ball. First of all, soccer was my first love, but that just got me ready for basketball, because you know about the time. You know what? In 1987, I moved from Half Hour Hills. I moved from the north side of Wyandanch, and I moved to Brentwood. And I'm gonna tell you why this move right here, it was scary to me as a teenager, but it was important.
But it was one of the most important moves of your life. And we're gonna get into that. But go ahead.
Yeah. The basketball, you know, that was my thing. Hey, I'm gonna tell you, a lot of my basketball I learned is right there in Wyandanch, playing at that court called Murders basketball court. We be there every day. Me and Alvin, Tony and his brother Anthony. Me and Anthony was like this. I was my man because we went to Half Hour Hills together. And I remember some of the most infamous times in Wyandanch happened right there. At a young age of 14, I used to just sit back and do the knowledge, and I figured out who was who in Wyandanch, who was the bully, who was the bully of the bully. Right. I remember Rakim being there every day with his old German Shepherd following me. He used to wear St. John's jersey all the time. And I remember when Eric B. and Ant Live started first coming around. They started coming around Murders. I remember when they first started. Everything happened. That was like a epicenter of Wyandanch at one point in time. People would rather go to Murders basketball court than to go to Wyandanch Park. That was the hangout. It was everything. So I learned everything about hip-hop, the culture. People would come from all over just to play ball there, and it was brutal. You had to be tough to play there. Yep. So I learned how to be quick and elusive on the basketball court, learning to play with some of the biggest brutal hackers like Alvin himself right there at Murders. So that was important as far as culture, because any given night, you'll see LL Cool J up there. Yep. You'll see Rakim up there playing ball. Yep. It was one of those where you just never knew who you were going to see or what you were going to see.
Rock would be there. Everybody would be there.
Yep. Everybody would be there. And then at night, Alvin would bring out the boxing gloves. So you see who was nice with theirs and who wasn't. I learned a lot from Murders, and that prepared me for everything. Because moving on, you know, from 87, I moved to Brentwood. And let me tell you, when I moved to Brentwood, I moved to Gergon Court right around the corner from Bismarck on Noble Street.
Hold on one second. Let me set this up.
Yep.
So you're in Wyandanch, Half Hour Hills, and you go to Brentwood, which you most likely probably even want to be there because it was Brentwood at the time. But this was one of the most important moves of your lifetime. You know, it was there's more millionaires that came out of the Brentwood Sky area than anywhere else, basically, in the urban culture. And you were right in the middle of it. Talk about that.
Yeah, I was at ground zero. So 87, I moved there. I moved around the corner from Fizz. And he lived on Noble Street. He had the biggest hit in hip-hop. Nobody beats the Biz at that time. Yes. And I got real good friends with his brother, Diamond Shell, which he was an artist as well. Biz that put him on. But you got to understand, the first day my mom's dropped me off at Brentwood High School, I probably knew one person in there. I think it was Wink Berry, and I knew him from Wyandanch. But after being there for 2 days, not knowing nobody, really scared to death, I seen that this school was a giant melting pot. It was a big population of Hispanic, Caribbean, white, all in one school. And this school was gigantic. It was broken up in 2 different buildings. Right. So the music influence.
2 high schools in one district.
Ross and Sunderland. I went to Ross. So you got to understand, the melting pot of that came a big music explosion, because you had the influence of Caribbean music, Spanish music. It was crazy. Our talent shows used to be crazy, and I'll get into that. So like the second or third day of school, you know, because when I went there, I was the Don in that school. I was the fly sticker. I'll tell you that. So,
absolutely.
I mean, Eric Stern,
especially coming from the Wyandanch area.
Yeah, from the Wyandanch area, we was different. So the second person I meet was Eric Stern. My man Bernard Alexander, that was the founder of a lot of groups, like he founded 50. of the Fugees. He's responsible for a lot in the
He also
Craig
managed
Mack.
Jamie Foxx.
Yeah, Craig Mack was in my homeroom class. DJ 45 he lived a couple blocks away from me, Gene Nelson, and all these guys wound up being big wigs in the music industry. It was crazy on how I meet all of them when they were nothing. They were just regular dudes. So, you know, that relationship that I had with them was real because this is before the music and before anything. And I remember at that time, see, I want to go back a little bit in time and talk about my relationship with Alvin.
Right.
What Alvin told me. And Anthony. See, me and
God
Anthony
bless Alvin. God bless Alvin.
Yeah.
May he rest in peace. He's done a lot of I always talk about him.
Alvin, he grew up. Alvin always grew up like my big brother, my protector. And I respect him for that forever. He always was like protecting me. He seen me as his younger brother. And he was like a superhero to me on my games. Because Alvin, I seen a lot of bullies out there. Because my games was full of them back there. But Alvin was the bully of the bullies. He was the one, he was a strong arm, hands down, had the crown and wonders of a knockout king. And I remember Denny Imp telling me one day, he was like, I don't know if y'all ain't trying to educate you on who Denny Imp was. He worked for Cold Killing back then.
Right.
But Denny Imp was one of them strong arm dudes that I remember that Kane and Eric B and all them.
He also was Big Daddy Kane's road manager. Another good friend. Chaos.
So the fact is, I remember, cats knew not to say nothing. I could always walk around with jury, whatever, because they knew they was going to have to deal with Alvin if they said something to me. So, you know, I moved to Brentwood, all I did was brag about Alvin. When I met Eric and Bernard, we became close friends. We became close friends after we met in high school. And I used to always tell them about Alvin. My man Alvin to knock this nigga out. Alvin to put his teeth at Alvin. They're like, yo, Johnny, who's this dude Alvin you talking about? You act like he could be Mike Tyson. And I would tell him, yeah, I think if he had the proper training, he couldn't, because he was that brutal and that strong and that athletic then. So that led to, you know, fast forward, me and Eric and Bernard became really good friends. Like, literally, they'd be at my house every day. I was at their house every day. They come to my house to get something to wear to school because I had all the clothes.
Hey, Keisha.
So, we got really close. And we were so close, there'd be times where I'd be fucking beatboxing down the street and Eric could be doing his raps, because I always was Eric's son's biggest fan. He was always nice with him. And I knew them when him and Craig Mack was beating on wall lockers and lunchroom tables, battling each other. And Eric Sermon was always nice with his, but he had this gift. His father, Lenny, would have this record collection. My first time ever getting introduced to R&B music, Eric Sermon gave me a Anita Baker Rapture album in 1987. I never knew nothing about no R&B music, but Eric did. That dude would know every single word that Luther Vandross. He was just a musically gifted dude.
So Johnny, let's set this up. So here it is. You're in Brentwood with all some of the potential major players that you guys didn't know at this time, along with Will Castro, along with Johnny Nunez. Everybody.
There was some talent out there, man, in all different forms.
All guys that doing big things. Johnny Nunez is one of the top photographers in the game right now. Will Castro, TV, done cars for everybody. Diddy, Buster, you name it. He's done cars and Lambos and had on TV show, and he's still on TV now. All these guys are from Brentwood. You got the extension. You got JVC Fourth over there. You got Keith Murray right there on the other side.
Keith is my man. Keith is my man. Yeah, I get it. I could tell you some wild stories about Keith. Yeah, but I'm gonna get into that.
I got a few too.
Yeah, I'm gonna get into the drama side when Keith first got on, and when he PNG. So fast forward, that school year goes past, and the summer comes to a close of 87. You got to understand, back then in 87, Alvin was working with Rakim. When Rakim and Eric B was on Zakia Records. So all them had jackets, the Zakia Records, blue satin jackets with the white record, and Alvin gave me that the way to school. So you got to understand, I was walking through with that Eric B. and Rakim jacket on in
Celebrity
87.
alert, celebrity alert. We got Eric Sermon on the check-in. What's up, E? We got E on the check-in. Let's go. Let's get it.
Yeah, for sure. So I wore that shit to school. Niggas is looking at me in school like, whoa. So, you know, as that school year comes to an end, Eric tells me, he was like, yo, Johnny, this dude, because Parrish was older than us, and he was in college when we was in our Brentwood school during the 87 period. Right. And I used to watch Eric just tear niggas' ass up at parties and all that. He just tear niggas' ass up. He was that nice. So I remember he came, he said, Johnny, yo, this dude, he came to my crib. He said, yo, it's this dude Parrish I'm making a record with. We made this demo, and he played for me. You a customer. Yo, I heard that shit. I was like, yo, E, this shit's dope. Yeah. I had no idea. That time period? Yeah, we was headed. I'm telling you, within a month's time, that shit was on the radio. Within 3 or 4 months' time, they was invited on the Run DMC tour. Yep. Right in front of my fucking face. Yep. I seen this nigga go from nothing. My man in school, my man go from nothing to something. Like just overnight. Like that, right in front of my face. But you know what? I believed in him because he had that type of talent. That dude was a different musical dude that y'all don't understand. He was just gifted like that. Yep. Some people just got talent for different shit, and that was his thing, music. So I was not surprised. But Bernard was right here, man. Yeah. Let's talk about that golden era. So the golden era now. We went through '87. EPMD pops. They start reaching out and getting solo this one. So we're going to get a time period from 88 to 92. Okay. That's the golden era. 1988 was one of the biggest years that hip-hop music has ever seen. It was beautiful. It was beautiful. You can call me a Apollo kid because every fucking weekend there was a show at the Apollo, and we would leave from Wyandanch with just $10, enough for the $5 there and $5 back. Jump the turn style, take the 201 train up to 125th and sneak in the Apollo. But I've seen everyone. I've seen everyone in hip hop. Some of the people that y'all probably don't even know. Some of these young cats somewhere at the Apollo Theater. There was a show every weekend. But my relationship with EPMD and Eric Sermon, we go to the Apollo, and Eric would bring me on Run DMC tour bus. He'd bring me to meet. I was backstage with them. That relationship was powerful because it gave me access to the backstage to see what was really going on. And I paid attention to the fashion. So I would see the Rich Porters and Alpo, and I do Jesus and all them in the Apollo Theater with the Fila shit on, with the Bally boots on, with the suede. I was there. I witnessed all that shit. Slick Rick, I seen it all. The fashion was powerful because back then we was well-dressed men. There was no saggy jeans, none of that. We was wearing Coogis back then with Bally boots, with leather and suede pants. We was just very well-dressed. It was a glorious time. That's where that movie paid in full. That era, it was really talking about that, and I got to see it firsthand because of my relationship with Bernard and Eric. Nice. You know what I'm saying? I know a lot of stuff in fashion. So you know me, I wanted to be involved in that. I always had the Bally boots. And it'll be times when we be backstage and me and Big Daddy Kane will be the only one with certain color Bally's. A lot of cats wasn't wearing Bally's. You know what I'm saying? Because the retail cost of those back then in the 80s was like $300 for a pair. Right. So you got to understand that's almost like $1,500 to $2,000 right now for a pair of shoes. And I remember I was an avid Bally collector. I had a hockey bag, duffel bag full of Bally's because I love these shoes that much. I just started collecting them shits. And, you know, from 89, you said 88 to 90, you know. 88 to 92. 92. So, gradually, at each album, EPMD started advancing and rising. They put out 5 albums from that period. They became beasts in 1992. Yeah, they became real beasts where, like, you know, all their songs is fucking hits. And then they signed Das Effect. They had Redman. They was on top of shit. And I got to see that shit firsthand backstage. You know what I'm saying? Like I said, it influenced me in hip hop. I've seen some of the best, but I've seen some of the worst shit come out of niggas. I've seen a lot of. I just seen a lot. I had fun. Some of the best songs of my life was off the strength of that relationship. And I don't even want to even leave out Craig Mack. Craig Mack. Even Brentwood was in my homeroom class, and I remember the first time seeing that brother in homeroom class, and I looked over and seen him. I was like, God damn, this got to be the most ugly I've seen in my life when I seen Craig. And Craig was one of these dudes where I told you in time before, to me, Craig kind of had like a social problem because every period in school, somebody was slapping the shit out of Craig. Was saying something stupid. He was a compulsive fucking liar back then. I wouldn't believe Craig back then if he told me he found a quarter, but he was nice. Yeah. He was nice with us. I remember being on the road, right? On that His Squad tour, right? And then Craig was a roadie then, and he would go be tired or whatever and go to his room or whatever. And then after the show, be some dude from whatever city we're in talking about that he's nice and coming in and be rapping in the lobby and they having cycles in the lobby. And then all of a sudden somebody said, go get Craig Mack. Go wake Craig Mack up. Craig Mack, go wake Craig Mack up and he come down to the lobby and destroy the place. I remember every time I remember Eric Sermon would be in his room making beats with that Roll W, whatever he had.
Mr. Green is a wild boy.
Yeah, I remember every time he made an ill beat, he would call Craig to come in his room to get on that track. Craig, come in here. I remember that shit distinctly. And I even remember after high school, Brentwood High School, people don't know, me and Craig Mack, we worked for Sears. A posting in service. Me and Craig Mack worked there.
Wow.
They used to send us on runs to clean carpets in the projects in the Bronx, Brooklyn, everywhere where the white dudes were scared to go. So me and Craig, we worked there out of high school. People don't know Craig. Yeah, I can tell you a wild ass story. And you know what? I love Craig to death, but people don't know Craig. Man, listen, hey, I just passed. Craig was something else, man. Y'all just don't know.
I know.
Craig was something else. And I'll tell you a story about that because I watched this kid get mistreated. I watched his struggles. And I watched him at his pinnacle. And I'll tell you about that moment. I'll tell you real quick in a nutshell so we can move on. In the 90s when Craig got on with Bad Boy, with Alvin Tony, you, Anton, you was very instrumental in him getting on and getting that deal, I remember. But it was the Source Awards, the infamous Source Awards. That I went there with Craig, me and Alvin's brother, Anthony. We went there. It was at the Paramount Theater in Madison Square Garden. And I remember sitting there in the third row because my man, this dude I know, he worked for a record company. He had third row seats. I came with Craig. We was backstage. We didn't have no seats. So my man seen me on the stage. He was like, yo, yo, yo. So I hopped over 3 people, hopped over 8 people, and got my seat. I got my seat for the show. And then I seen P.I. from Wyandanch. I had a seat right next to me. So I called him. He had came with Alvin. So we watched this whole Source Awards show. Outcast, I'll never forget it, was sitting right in front of me. But I remember, Death Row had went first. They did their show. Lady of Rage come out one cell. What's her name? DJ Quick come out one cell. It was crazy, that show. But Bad Boy went on last. When Craig Mack came down that ramp wearing all black, that Paramount Theater went crazy. Man, in the air, John Singleton, man, so rest in peace. Sam Cassell, everyone was sitting in my row. I literally seen grown men standing up on their feet. Yo, that moment, I was so proud of Craig, I almost started crying because I knew the struggle he'd been through to get to that point. That's true. Craig was even homeless. Craig was homeless for a while. Craig went through it all, man. Craig, he was struggle. You know what I'm saying? And so yeah, moving forward in the '90s, I would go out with Eric and them on tour, and they Hit Squad tour. And I remember being with Eric all the time. I go to his house, I carry that shit. I remember the day I went to Eric's house and snuck in through the back door. I had seen the Wrangler Jeep with Jersey plates on. And back then, there was no cell phones with cameras, but I remember walking up in there and peeked in the room, and he was in there with Wendy Williams. Ooh,
allegedly. Allegedly.
Yeah,
He was allegedly.
Yeah, he was in there. Eric was doing his thing. Eric was he was gone at that nigga was gone at one point in time.
Oh, I know.
Eric started the hot topic.
Johnny, you know I know.
I know. But anyway, moving forward, you know,
real quick though, let me tell you something.
Yeah.
Back then, Wendy was getting around. Y'all can laugh all your way. Wendy was getting around. There's a lot of dudes that smash Wendy and they don't want to business.
Wow. Yeah, I remember that back then.
Talk about it.
I was at E Crib so much back then. I remember one day I was there and we was in the backyard. It was me, Eric, Redman, Keith Murray, and I think my man Jay I had with me. And we was there and we was in the backyard. And some things went up, boom, boom, boom. It was out there, I guess it was target practice, when we had came back into the studio. And I remember being in there for a while. We being there, Eric and Redman, they was doing their thing. Eric was doing his music. And I remember there was a knock at the door. It was a knock at the door. So I go, we all sitting there, you know, I don't know no better. So Eric goes outside and he comes back. He was like, yeah, I'll be right back. I got to go somewhere. All of a sudden, and I remember Redman looking out the blinds and saying, yo, if that was about that P shit, I think we should have went with him. So I didn't know what was going on. I didn't see Eric after that date probably for like a month or two. I came to the crib and me and him was sitting. He had a 300E. And he was like, yo, Johnny, drama went down after that. That's when EPMD broke up.
Yes.
And that's I was sitting right there. He was like, yo, Johnny, he told me, you know, because Eric kept it real with me. He was like, yo, when shit went down, EPMD we breaking up. And Eric had jetted to Atlanta for like a month or two. I remember him telling me, and he was like, you know, Eric, you would never see it in him, but he was worried. He said, yo, Johnny, I went down there. Shit was bad for me because we broke up. Paris had Schumer Records. Paris had DOS Effect. Eric didn't own none of that shit. He wasn't even getting the proper credit for all his beats he fucking made. But I remember him telling me, he said, yo, Johnny, I asked Russell. He said, I let you beg Russell. He gave him a deal. And from that deal, he had that song, Hitting Fucking Switches. Hitting Switches, and that shit became a fucking hit. I think the nigga would have got gold on that shit. So they gave him an album deal. So I didn't see Eric for a while after that.
That was on the soundtrack of Who's the Man with Ed Love and Dr. Dre.
Yeah. And then he had moved to Atlanta. Yep. So when he was in Atlanta, I had found out, you know, record he had fucking produced Shaquille O'Neal's first album. And that shit was platinum. Yep. And I remember him telling me, yo, Johnny, Shaquille hit me off. That's when Eric became a millionaire, I believe. And you got to understand, in 1994, me, Bernard, Jamel, Dantan, the other dude, Chris, that was Eric's manager, we all flew to Eric's mansion out there in 1994 for the Freak Meet, the original.
Real quick, all the names you just named, like Dan Tan. Dan Tan went on to be the president of Murder Inc., another CI guy. He's still moving around.
No, he wasn't. Dan Tan was from Lakeview.
Right.
He's from Lakeview. He wasn't. He's from West Hempstead. He wasn't from over there. Eric had met him somewhere. Him and Bernard. Oh, okay. But I remember he became real close. So that was part of like the.
I always with Steve Money. That's why I always thought he was from CI.
Yeah, he's from West Hempstead. I remember the first time I met him. That was Eric, man. But anyway, let me get to the story about when we went to the Freak Meet. Yo, I swear to you, that 1994 Freak Meet, I've never seen nothing like that in my fucking life. And we was all the major hangout was Eric's Rim Shop on Peachtree Street. Everybody hung out there. Everybody in the city fly to there. Everyone who was someone, that was the hangout. And I remember one day, Eric was so nice to me this whole time. He gave me the keys because Eric had a black Land Cruiser when he first came out, the black Lexus coupe, the black S500. He lived in a mansion. Man. We was chilling. And I'll never forget, one day we was sitting in the car, me and Redman, Eric Benz, getting nice and fucking Shaquille O'Neal, and Dennis Scott pulls up in the drop top 500. They pulls up. And they get out, they go in the rim shop because downstairs Eric had a studio down there. And all of us, Keith, we was all out there. It was some of the most beautiful shit that I've ever seen in my life. It was crazy and wow. And Eric was just making sure he showed me the best of times. The best of times. And he, you know, I remember one time me and Redman, rather, we was sitting in his car. And I fucking, you know, Eric came back out, killed Dennis Scott right next to us leaving, and Eric jumped in the driver's seat to leave too. I went to get out the car to be with Bernard and them. I thought they was pulling off to go do something. And so the fact is, Eric was like, nah, stay in the car. Stay in the car. So we drives around and letting people mobbing both the cars. They see Shaquille O'Neal, they see Eric Sermon, they see Redman, they see Dennis Scott. They going crazy, and we all go to Magic City that night. And let me tell you, that movie with Bernie Mac, Players Club. You know how they went in the back, and the train of girls came running. That's exactly what happened. So to wind it down, when I was leaving on the plane, going back to the hood, Eric pulled me to the side and said, Johnny, everything you witnessed here and everything you seen, I want you to tell this nigga Alvin Tony, why did he cross me? Ooh. See, when he broke up, there was a split. And Eric was going to give everything to Alvin, his management, everything to Alvin to manage him, to leave Parrish. But at that time, Parrish had came over to Alvin's house and told him, yo, I got Schumer, I got this, I own this, Eric ain't got nothing. Alvin switched and jumped the fence. And they started hitting on Eric. He started hitting on him. I was unaware of this because, you know, I'm doing my thing. I'm looking for that. I don't know they in the business. And sure enough, Eric was like, yo, Johnny, you tell them everything that you witnessed here, what you've seen. And I understood that. Yeah.
I'm going to touch on that for 2 seconds, and then we're going to have to move on to the clothing and the design. Just so everybody knows, at that time, Alvin was supposed to manage Eric Sherman after they broke up. But it didn't materialize like that. Like Johnny said, he was kind of in between and ruined the relationship with Eric and basically ruined the relationship with Parrish also, all the same emotion, you know. So he kind of burnt both bridges, you know, not knowing it. But then we wind up, you know, shopping Craig Mack and getting a deal with Craig Mack. And everybody else knows the story from there. But
yeah,
there's a lot more that we can talk about with that whole era right there, but we got to move on, Johnny.
Yeah,
about 9 minutes. So I want you to touch on the Johnny Famous shoes. God bless the dead. I want you to touch on Junior Seau, the NFL legend. I want you to touch on his relationship and how Johnny Famous shoes came about and going on from there.
Absolutely. So it was throughout the 90s, you know, like I told you before, in the 80s, I was in love with the Ballard shoes. In 1989, the shoe totally disappeared out of the marketplace, totally. So in the 90s, 94, 93, I'm calling every Bally's headquarters, everywhere looking for these shoes. And I get information from the execs there and some of the people running the show, because we even went as far as I partnered with a Jewish kid I went to school with. He was an attorney. So I told him the story. So we relentlessly started finding out information about this shoe. So we got the information that they didn't make it anymore. And one of the execs there told me, said, listen, I got people calling from all over the world looking for this shoe. When he told me that, that was my light bulb moment.
Right.
That was my light bulb moment.
Yeah.
I said, wait a second. Not just me is looking for this shoe like this. He was like, no, we got people from everywhere. So I was like, whoa. So I was like, what if the light bulb moment, what if I was to recreate and rebuild, you know, and bring this shoe, this style back? I thought about it. So then I went to Stony Brook University, and I said, you know what, my attorney, let's go ahead and patent this design. Let's go ahead and patent this. Let's get this design from them. They don't want it. I want it. I understood what it meant to us in our culture. If you look at every Dapper Dan suit, every picture you see from the 80s, if they had a Gucci suit on, Louis Vuitton, they had a pair of Bally's on. It was nothing more. Bally was the benchmark of superior footwear back then.
Everybody would have
that was a drug dealer's choice. If you see any pictures of anyone, they had Bally's on. You look at Big Daddy King's album, they have Bally's on. That was it. But I thought everyone couldn't afford that shit.
I gotta get me
and then even to songs, the shoe was so iconic that Slick Rick and Dougie Fresh made songs about it where it was mentioning their songs. I got my first pair of Bally's on with my fly green shirt.
Yes.
So it influenced hip hop so much in the culture, but the other people back then in the 80s couldn't see it. They couldn't see it. Look how long it took for Adidas to recognize Run and Run DMC for what they did with the Adidas shoe. They didn't want to recognize us as a marketing power as people back then. So I understood it. That's why they discontinued this line, because it was appealing to the urban culture. Marketing-wise, that was like a fucking you didn't do that marketing-wise if you're a luxury brand that's been around since like the early 1900s. You didn't do that. So moving forward, I went to Eric's house. I'm knocking on doors, making phone calls at Fat Farm, trying to get to Russell Simmons with no luck. You ain't going to get in there knocking at the door. They're going to look at you. No one's going to give you the time of day like that. So I understood my relationships and my relationships with Eric and Bernard and their relationships with Russell. So I go to Eric Sermon's house. I said, listen, Eric, I patented this shoe. I got the design. Could you get me a meeting with Russell Simmons? So Eric makes a phone call. I believe it was to it was that dude that runs Redman and them now. What was his name? Ellis. So Ellis gives it to a guy named Rashid that runs Run Athletics, and he worked for Russell and them. He worked for Rashid, man. The rapper, she worked for him too. So Eric makes a phone call right away. He says, yo, tell him to come up right away. So I go up to their office. I believe their office back then, was it the Empire State Building? I believe it was the Empire State Building. Everyone's there. Damon John was there. I met with Damon John years later at the same building. He got the whole 66th floor. And Eric believed in the idea. He said, Johnny, I believed in this, so I'm going to make the phone call for you. So he made the phone call. I go up and meet with Rashid. Rashid literally gives me the blueprint. He gives me the blueprint on footwear manufacturing, because there's not too many black young brothers into that game of footwear manufacturing back then. It was few and far. Wow. So he says, attend this trade show. One of them was the Magic in Vegas, the biggest one, and that's when it was crazy, the Magic. I go to every trade show. I learn. I speak with manufacturers. I speak with suppliers from all over the world. So off of that, me trying to raise money, I couldn't raise the nigga because no one's going to believe in your dream, not like you. So I took everything that I owned, everything that I had, and from a friend of mine, we manufactured 500 pairs. So I would bump into Rashid when he was running Run Athletics with Reverend Run and all them at these same trade shows. I was doing my homework because I made the decision at that time, listen, this is what I'm going to do with my life, or I'm going to die trying. That was my goal. I didn't have no plan B. Hey, like fucking Vikings, I burnt the boat. It was this and nothing. I didn't have too many.
Johnny, unfortunately, we only got about maybe 4 more minutes, and I don't want to get you into the middle of the story and it's cut off, and we cut in the live cuts off. Unfortunately, that's how Instagram is. But we're definitely going to bring you back because you got. We have to get into your whole fashion part of your career.
Part 3, Johnny Shoes Stay tuned. We coming back. We got 20 seconds left. I want to shout out to everybody that came out, showed up, showed
Yes,
support. We
thank
love
you,
you.
everybody.
Peace and
Shout out
love.
to every
You
son
never
who's on
give
the
up on
show.
your dreams.
I really appreciate
Only a plan
it.
A, no plan B.
Chaos.